we get you the very latest on the ceasefire deal. We're joined by SABC News Correspondent Blake Sifton, who joins us from Tel Aviv. Blake, quite a lot happening. Let's start with bringing us up to speed on the latest on the ceasefire, with everything said to be hinging on the Security Cabinet's meeting.
Good evening. Earlier today on Friday, the Israeli Security Cabinet met and approved the ceasefire deal. Currently, as I'm speaking to you now, the wider political cabinet is meeting to also approve the deal. It is expected to pass, and the deal would come into effect on Sunday. It is expected to pass despite some pretty aggressive and steadfast opposition from the far-right members of Benjamin Netanyahu's ruling coalition. National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir has said that he will withdraw his party from the governing coalition in protest of this deal being signed. He says that he disagrees with what he calls terrorists with blood on their hands being released, and says that this deal will undermine Israel's successes in the war. Meanwhile, the finance minister Smotrich, he has said that he opposes the deal. However, he will and will not vote for it, but however, he will not pull his party out of the governing coalition. So that will leave Netanyahu's party with a slim majority in the Knesset.
But most certainly they'll continue to govern, so it wouldn't compromise it to the extent now where this coalition government would collapse altogether.
That's right, yes. Netanyahu's government would continue to be in power, and the deal would proceed as planned. And it is important to note that Itamar Ben-Gvir did say that while he would withdraw from the government over this deal, he would reconsider re-entering the government if the war renews and if the war continues after the first phase of this deal.
And what do we know about the hostages who will be released in the first phase of this deal?
The first phase of the deal is expected to last 42 days and will include the release of 33 hostages. Among them are female civilians, female soldiers, men over 50, as well as the sick and injured. It is meant to begin with 3 women being released on Sunday at 4 p.m. And then on the 7th day of the deal, an additional 4 women would be released. In the following 4 weeks, 3 people would be released per week, and the remaining 14 hostages would be released on the 6th and final week. We do know the identities of these 33 hostages. However, we do not know the order in which they would be released, as well as how many of them remain alive. While the Israeli government has said that the majority of this group of 33 hostages are alive, it is understood that some are deceased. Of course, all these developments is giving quite a bit of hope to the families of the hostages, hope that their loved ones may soon be released, and hope that their nightmare may soon be over. But of course, also quite a bit of fear and anxiety on the fate of their loved ones.
And then beyond the families of the loved ones, what has been the broader reaction to this announcement in Israel of the ceasefire deal as well as the hostage release deal?
The reaction across Israel has been overwhelmingly supportive of this deal. There's not a person in the country who wants to see the hostages remain in Gaza any longer. However, there is quite a bit of discomfort and opposition to this deal on the right. People believe that that this deal will release Palestinian prisoners serving life sentences who may remain a threat to them, that they may return to militancy. And that they believe that the war aims essentially are more important than the release of the hostages, and they should continue the pressure on Hamas. However, that is a minority opinion in the country. The vast majority of people do support this ceasefire agreement.
And then can you tell us about the preparations underway to get more humanitarian aid into Gaza when the deal begins?
We understand from aid groups that a massive program is underway preparing for this influx of aid. Under the deal, we would see 600 trucks of aid entering Gaza per day. That is much more than has been entering daily over the last few months. Over the last months, it's been 40 to 50 trucks per day. We've seen the World Food Program has said that 80,000 tons of aid is either near Gaza or on its way to the area. We've seen stockpiling of aid in Egypt along the Rafah border, as well as in Jordan. Of course, it's worth noting that the Israeli government the Israeli military has been accused throughout this conflict of hindering the delivery of aid to Gaza, a charge they've denied, but it does remain to be seen what kind of mechanism exists in order to get so much aid into Gaza so quickly when so much of the infrastructure in the Strip has been destroyed by this war.
And then, Blake, just in closing, there were reports of deaths mounting even beyond the announcement of the ceasefire deal. What is the status now?
I'm really sorry, I didn't hear that last question very clearly.
I'll repeat it. There were reports that had surfaced that deaths continue to mount in Gaza, even beyond that announcement of a ceasefire earlier this week, that there were still people who continued to die. What is the status now?
Yes. We have seen a continuation of attacks in Gaza throughout this week, and especially following the signing or the announcement of the agreement. It is not uncommon here to see an uptick in violence ahead of ceasefire agreements. We saw that in Lebanon ahead of the ceasefire with Hezbollah. Of course, that's of no solace to the people of Gaza, who have suffered immeasurably throughout this war and continue to suffer. But yes, until the deal takes effect, which is expected at 12:15 local time on Sunday, we unfortunately do expect to see continued violence in Gaza.